250 years ago, the world moved to a different rhythm. For nearly all of human history, life was governed by the sun and the seasons. It was a world that was overwhelmingly rural, slow, and profoundly local. Your entire existence might unfold within a few square miles of where you were born. The only power available came from human and animal muscle, or the unpredictable force of wind and water. Then, on a small island nation, a series of sparks ignited a fire that would engulf the globe. In 18th century Britain, a unique convergence of factors, abundant coal, burgeoning scientific inquiry, and a spirit of enterprise created the perfect crucible for revolution. The world changed forever, not with a declaration, but with the hiss of steam. James Watt's improved steam engine was the breakthrough. For the first time, humanity had a source of power on demand, untethered from nature's whims. This mechanical heart began to beat in the mines, pumping out water, and in the textile mills, where machines like the spinning jenny and power loom wove the fabric of a new era at a speed previously unimaginable. As the machines roared to life, they created an irresistible pull. Millions abandoned the familiar patterns of rural life for the promise of work in the new industrial centers. Cities like Manchester and London swelled, becoming the chaotic, vibrant, and often brutal epicenters of this new age. The air grew thick with coal smoke as skylines became forests of brick chimneys. But these weren't just centers of industry, they were crucibles of innovation. This initial wave of iron and steam soon gave way to a second, even more powerful surge. Steel, produced in vast quantities, allowed cities to grow upwards and bridges to span impossible distances. Electricity began to turn night into day, while the telegraph started to shrink the globe, making the world feel smaller and more connected than ever before. This was more than a technological revolution, it was a fundamental reordering of society. New classes, an industrial working class and a powerful middle class, emerged, challenging the old order. With them came new ideas, new conflicts, and new dreams. Literacy rates climbed, and the mass production of books and newspapers meant that knowledge and dissent could spread with unprecedented speed. The very concepts of time, work, and community were redefined. This is the story of that profound shift. It is the journey from a world lit by candlelight to one illuminated by the screen in your hand. It's the epic tale of how we went from smoke-filled factories to gleaming satellites orbiting the Earth, a journey that continues to shape every aspect of our lives today. Britain, late 1700s, coal fires burned, iron rails stretched, and steam engines powered giant machines. A farmer's son could now work in a factory, travel by train, or read books printed in thousands. For the first time, human power was replaced by machine power. Villages turned into cities, millions left farms for factories, the air was polluted, work was harsh, but opportunities grew, new middle classes rose, and old traditions gave way to a modern economy. As Europe industrialized, its ships crossed oceans, colonies were conquered, resources taken, and global trade expanded. This era built wealth for some, but brought suffering and exploitation for many. Galileo looked to the stars, Newton unlocked gravity, and scientists everywhere questioned old beliefs. The Enlightenment spread ideas of reason, liberty, and human rights. Printing presses and universities made knowledge available like never before. From America to France, from Haiti to Latin America, revolutions shook the world. People demanded freedom, equality, and self-rule. Nations were born, monarchies fell, and democracy gained strength. Electricity lit up cities, telegraphs shrank distance, and medicine saved lives. The 19th and 20th centuries saw inventions that shaped our daily world. Light bulbs, phones, cars, airplanes. For the first time, the planet felt connected. But this narrative of progress and liberty was not a universal truth. For much of the world, the 20th century dawned not with freedom, but with the heavy chains of oppression. This wasn't a footnote in history. It was the lived reality for hundreds of millions. The world was starkly divided between the powerful and the powerless, the colonizer and the colonized. Vast empires, built on centuries of conquest, still stretched across continents. From the British Raj in India to French territories in Africa and Asia, colonial powers extracted wealth and resources while systematically dismantling local cultures borders and denying native populations the right to self-rule. In other parts of the world, the brutal legacies of slavery morphed into new forms of subjugation. In the United States, the system of Jim Crow enforced a rigid racial hierarchy, creating a society of separate and profoundly unequal. In South Africa, this ideology was codified into its most extreme form: apartheid, a cruel and meticulous system of racial segregation that governed every aspect of life. But the human spirit has a profound, unyielding intolerance for injustice. In the face of this systemic oppression, a new chapter of history was being written. It was written not with the ink of diplomats or the decrees of kings, but with the courage of ordinary people demanding their fundamental rights. Across the globe, whether in lively center city squares or in the quietest remote villages, voices of defiance began to rise. They spoke different languages and faced different tyrannies, but they shared a common, unshakable dream. His leadership of the 1930 Salt March, a simple 240-mile walk to the sea to defy the British salt tax, was a masterstroke in political theater. It exposed the absurdity of colonial rule and galvanized millions of Indians, proving that a united people, armed only with their convictions, could challenge the mightiest empire on earth. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. saw nonviolence as a powerful weapon, a peaceful way to fight against the deep-rooted racism in his country. He believed it could not only break unjust laws, but also heal the soul of America. From the year-long Montgomery bus boycott to the monumental 1963 March on Washington, King's powerful oratory and unwavering commitment to peace in the face of brutal violence captured the conscience of the nation and the world. His dream, spoken on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, was not just for Black Americans, but for an America where all people would be judged by the content of their character. After 27 years in prison, Mandela emerged not with bitterness, but with a vision for reconciliation. His long walk to freedom became a powerful symbol, the triumph of resilience and the hope of building a new, united, multiracial rainbow nation from the ashes of division. These 20th century struggles echoed earlier battles for liberation. With brilliant strategy and bold leadership, Bolivar liberated 6 nations, forever changing the map of the Americas. Gandhi, King, Mandela, Bolivar, these figures, separated by time and geography, became titans in a global saga of liberation. Their struggles were long, fraught with sacrifice, and paid for in blood and tears, but they carried a universal dream, the simple yet profound idea that every human being is born with an inherent right to dignity, equality, and freedom. Their legacy is not just in the nations they helped build or the laws they helped change, but in the enduring inspiration they provide for all who continue the fight for justice today. 2 world wars scarred the 20th century. Cities burned, millions died. Yet from the ashes came unity, the United Nations, new global cooperation, and a shared desire to avoid such destruction again. Then, another revolution. Computers shrank from room-sized machines to devices in our pockets. The internet connected billions. Satellites circled Earth. Science reached the atom and the stars. And so, in just 2 centuries, humanity leapt from horse carts to space travel, from candlelight to supercomputers. The modern age is not just about machines, but about people, ideas, and the dream of a connected world. This is how faith, factories, and freedom shaped our modern world. From the ashes of the old order, a new trinity of forces emerged. Faith, reformed by the printing press, spread literacy and the radical idea of individual destiny, laying the intellectual groundwork. This was just beginning. Then came the factories. The rhythmic clang of steel and hiss of steam were the sounds of a world remade. They promised unprecedented progress, pulling millions into cities, but this progress was paid for in the soot-choked lungs of workers and a new kind of economic servitude. And finally, freedom, a concept whispered by Enlightenment philosophers. It erupted into a roar during the American and French revolutions. The demand for self-governance, individual rights, became the defining political struggle of the age, a constant battle to extend its promise to all. These 3 forces, faith, factories, and freedom, were a roiling, often contradictory confluence that carved the landscape we inhabit today. But as one era solidifies, the seeds of the next are already taking root. The 20th century unleashed a force more transformative and ethically fraught than any before: science and its powerful offspring, technology. While the 19th century was defined by steam and steel, the 20th was defined by the invisible, the atom, the electron, the gene. We split the atom, unlocking both limitless energy and the terror of annihilation. We reached for the heavens, leaving our footprints on the moon, our perspective of home forever changed. We then turned our gaze inward, building machines that think. The digital revolution, born from silicon and code, connected the globe in a web of information, collapsing distance and time. Now we stand on the precipice of a new age, learning to write the code of life itself and creating artificial intelligences that may soon surpass our own. In our next journey, we will explore this new trinity: atoms, bits, and genes. We'll trace the path from Einstein's chalkboard to the nuclear reactor, from the first transistor to the global internet, and from the discovery of DNA to the ethical frontiers of CRISPR. How will these new powers shape the future of humanity? Understanding this trajectory is more critical than ever. The questions we face today about AI ethics and genetic privacy are echoes of the debates our ancestors had about industrial labor and individual liberty. Here, at Factonic Facts, we believe history and science are not separate disciplines, but two sides of the same coin, the epic story of humanity's quest to understand and shape its reality. Our mission is to connect the dots, tracing the lines from the past to the present, giving you the context needed to navigate the complexities of tomorrow. We're here for one reason: bringing history and science to life, because only by understanding where we've been can we choose where we're going. But this is a conversation, and we need your voice. What do you think was the most significant turning point we've discussed? What future technology are you most excited or worried about? Let us know in the comments below. Your insights enrich this community of curious minds. If you found this journey valuable, please support our channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration into atoms, bits, and genes. Click the bell icon to be notified the moment it drops. Thank you for watching.